Welcome everybody to this next video. This is a list review session with me and my son Jacob. We're looking at the army lists for Manawatu Grand coming up in just over a week's time. So long time no see, good to be making a video again, and yeah, sit back and enjoy. So the first list that we're looking at is Russell Simister's Vampire Covenant list. So he's gone with the Strigoi bloodline. So he's got a count with shamanism is required as a Strigoi. He's got a bestial bulk courtier, an adept necromancer with evocation, a couple of banshees, a unit of ghouls, a couple of units of zombies, a couple of bat swarms, big unit of ghasts, cadaver wagon, 5 great bats, 3 phantom hosts, and a Varkalak. Thoughts, Jacob, on the list?
Well, it's got its 3 raises between the Vampire Count, the Courtier, and the Necromancer to be able to keep his ghoul block and his zombies at a decent size so they can still be able to be used as fights. And it's got a couple other units to run around, like the Varkalak, to swarm inside and create other problems.
Yeah, a couple of things that I would have done maybe differently. I'm not sold on the true thirst with the Ghoul Lord. Does make him maybe bring back a few ghouls, but personally I think with the hatred and the poison, taking Shieldbreaker to give him AP 10 is really good, because every poison hit is pretty much going to be an automatic wound, no armor save, and with reroll to hit, that's pretty scary. And then he's taken the evocation on the necromancer, so he can get a reroll to hit spell off if he really wanted to, as well, to buff it up. And with shamanism, he can give himself +1 strength to make it easier to wound if he needs to. So I just think that AP 10 makes that Ghoul Lord much more scary.
Yeah, well, with the Truth Thirst, if he puts it into the Ghoul unit, that means that the Ghouls will become a block of 40 minimum size, and he'll be able to slowly bring back Ghouls with that as well, not just with his Arises.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot of merit, this list. It's obviously, like most Strigoi lists, not going to want to play into flaming. It's got an awful lot of chaff though. You've got double banshee, double zombies, double bat swarms, and bats, and phantom hosts, all as chaff units. That's a heck of a lot of points that he's put into chaff. He could have saved himself some points there and picked up another unit, maybe a unit of vampire spawn, or if you wanted a mobile scoring unit, maybe vampire knight, something like that, just to give him a bit more of a balanced list. My thinking is he's really only got 2 blocks there with the ghouls and the ghasts, and he's got very little to stop them getting flanked. Both units are very tough to chew through front on, but with not much to protect the flanks, I think Russell will be in for a tough time, personally. What are your thoughts on how he's likely to go?
Well, I agree with that because he's got 3 units of infantry. One's going to be the Ghouls, most likely with the General in it, and possibly the BSB. So that will be a fairly hard block to shift. But then it's got 2 units of zombies. One, most likely probably the bigger one, will be bunkering the Necro, which means that that's another block taken out sitting in behind. And the other unit of zombies will be just going for scoring. So he's basically just got these 2 blocks of the Ghasts and the Cadet and the Ghouls, which are going to be sitting there with not much protection other than chaff. So other armies with lots more units, like MSU, will be able to swarm it and just grind it down.
Yeah, any army with good armor saves is going to be tough for him too, because both the ghasts and the ghouls really have no answer for armor. And as we know, zombies aren't really a combat unit. He's got that cadaver wagon to improve his saves, but all in all, I think he's overly invested in chaff, and Alright, next up we've got Jeremy's Ogre Khans. So Jeremy's gone with a Master Shamanism, a Master Shaman with Pyromancy. He's got the Liger's Tongue and Firebrand. He's got the Great Khan General with Death Cheetah and Cult Leader. He's got a Khan BSB with the banner of however the hell you say that. And Troll Leader. He's got a big block of 10 tribesmen, 2 big blocks of scraplings with hand weapon shield, 6 merc vets, double trappers, a rock, and a frost mammoth. What do you think, Jacob?
Well, with the two trappers units, he's just probably going to run around trapping all the pieces of terrain, which will be annoying because you touch it and the whole unit takes a DT at 1, which is going to be quite annoying. But at least this time he's going to can't make you move forward with the because he doesn't have downward strategy this time with the comet, so he's going to be just burning the hell out of you, which will be annoying for either elves, things that rely a bit more on resilience with no armor. So that will be annoying.
Yeah, he's got quite a few ogre crossbows with the frost mammoth, the rock, and the characters. So between that and Pyro, he's probably got enough range threat to make you come to him.
Yeah, I agree on that. And he's got 4, if you count the big units as straplings, he's got 4 units that he can use just to fight you, just head on. And then he's got 2 big nasties with between the Rock and the Frost Mammoth to run around, possibly take flanks. And like Rocks are never good to be charged by with all those impact hits and high strength attacks.
Yeah, I think this is going to be definitely one of the top 3 lists in my opinion. I think this is a really strong list. Those scrappling units are going to be really hard to break. He's going to be steadfast, leadership 9 for a long time with them. Their parry, a lot of bodies is going to be a pain, and if you get stuck on them, he's got all those hard-hitting units that just can come in and slam into your flank. With the Frost Mammoth, he's going to drop your agility, so he swings first. That Tribesman unit is scary with those 3 characters as well. The Merc Vets are quite scary. Personally, I think this is going to be a really tough list to handle. It's got a lot of threats, a lot of bodies, and a lot of range potential with Pyro. You can imagine with all the flaming attacks, those gasps are going to take a hammering that Russell's got. But there's not really much in Russell's army that can handle these things as well. He's going to get around the flanks of Russell's army, for example, and cause him a lot of problems.
Yeah, and he's also got the Rod of Battle there, which means that he can sometimes possibly turn those straplings into a bit of danger because it's +1 to hit. It's going to hurt with all the attacks that they can possibly just pump throw into you. And with +1 to hit means he can get a lot through, and really then it depends about how many 5s and 6s he can roll.
Yeah, possibly. Although I think he's more likely to only go 5 wide and just use them as units to effectively be roadblocks, hold you up for a turn so that he can countercharge you. I think he'll push those forward, wanting you to charge them, and then you'll get stuck on them for a turn, and then he charges you back with his single models or the Tribesman unit or the Merc Vets.
Yeah, and the worst part about it is those 2 big strapling units are very cheap, only about 300 points each.
Yep, yeah, it's going to be really hard to pick points up from this unit because he's got to lose a lot of bodies before you really start picking up any points. So unless you come with the tools to take care of the Rock and the Mammoth, you're really struggling to pick points up out of this list unless you risk going all in, which kind of plays into Jeremy's hands. So I think this is going to be a very tough list to handle for most people.
Yeah, I would agree.
Alright, next we've got Ken Shucker's Terror from Tararua's. Great name, Ken. He's running Beast Herds this time. He's gone for a Beast Lord on foot with Death Cheetah. Rather surprised he didn't take Destiny's Call for the cheaper 4-up 4-up. He's got a Soothsayer with Druidism, Trickster's Cunning, Ancestral Carving, so he becomes quite fighty. He's got a Centaur Chieftain BSB, Greater Totem Bearer, running the Hawthorn Curse. He's got a couple of Wildhorn units, both of them are ambushing. He's got a Mongrel Raiders unit, which also has ambushing, 10 Feral Hounds, 23 Longhorns. He's got 5 Centaurs, 5 Gargoyles, Raiding Chariot, and then 3 Nasties with the Briar Beast and the Double Beast Giants. Sorry, 4th, and he's got a Cyclops. Thoughts on that, Jacob, who's our resident expert on beast herds?
Well, first thing I say is Beast Hord's got Hunting Call, which is going to mean that his ambushes are going to come on easier and faster, which will be a pain for some armies. But I also see, looking at the bigger Wildhorn unit, it's got Banner of Discipline, which is needed for a BSB or a general to be inside for a better leadership role or whatever it is. And that has ambush on it. So I look back at his general, and that doesn't have ambush, which means that that's going to come on with no character in it, unless he puts the Soothsayer inside, which means that the Banner of Discipline is wasted.
Yeah, that is interesting. I can't remember off the top of my head. Does the Banner of Discipline only kick in if the general was in it, or is it any character? I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I believe it was the BSB or general, but I may be mistaken.
Yeah. Oh, that makes it, definitely a lot more interesting. Another interesting list. There's not a lot of units that really can go toe to toe. He's going to have to, when he's playing Russell, for example, be trying to get round on the flanks, as he's got nothing that can fight those blocks head on, really. I don't think the Longhorns have enough staying power to be able to fight either the Ghouls or the Ghasts. Even with Druidism, it's going to be pretty tough, as the Stone Skin will help, but with Poison and Hatred with the Ghouls, they won't last long at all, and there's too many bodies. And then the Ghasts have got their 4-up fortitude save thanks to the Cadaver Wagon, so I don't think King can go head on into those units. But I'm not sure that the Beast Giants and the Briar Beast and the Cyclops really give him enough to be able to cause too many problems on the flank either. Against Jeremy, I think he'll bleed points really fast to the Pyro. The Ogre Crossbows will probably pick off a few wounds on those key units as well. And again, I don't think he's got anything that can run into those big blocks. So again, I think Ken's in for a tough day, I think, with this list.
Also with Mongrel Raiders, they come instantly with Skirmish, which gives them like troops, and he's put a musician on them, which is also interesting, which is probably also a waste of points.
Yeah, he could have gone with 8 hounds and still got them in core and dropped the musician on the Raiders and the champion as well, and saved them some points to make that unit of 25 Wildhorns maybe a little bit bigger.
Yeah, it depends what he's trying to use those units for, I guess. And when you put it down on the board, you're looking at the Briar Beast not being on the board, Gargoyles not being on the board, Raiders not being on the board, both units of Ambushers not being on the board, possibly not even the Mage on the board, so he's not got many units on the board straight away.
I think that's what he's going for. I think he's trying to play that gimmicky beast herd list where basically very little is on the board.
Yeah, I also think that the Longhorn unit will also be trouble for most armies.
Yeah, it's really the only thing that's got much staying power, I think, in this list. So it's going to have to carry a heavy burden. All right, we'll move on to the next one. All right, our next list is Andy Hudson, who's bringing the Demon Legions. He's running 2 big, nasty demon bosses there with the Moor, who's his general, and the Omen of Savar. Both are going to be lots of fun for a lot of us to deal with. He's got 21 Lemures with stiff upper lip, and then a smaller unit of 12, 10 Myrmidons with piercing spike, 3 Brazen Beasts, 3 Hoarders, a Hope Harvester with the Mark of Eternal Champion, 6 Eidolons, a Titan Slayer Chariot, and 2 Mage Blight Gremlins. So very, very MSU, other than that big block of 21 Lemures. Again, Jacob, your thoughts as our resident demon expert.
Well, I think that big unit of Lemures, you'll probably put the Omen of Sava in there, making that unit a unit 25, which is no joke because those Lemures are not easy to fight, especially with guiding mirrored scales on them. So it means that, yes, the Lemures might not be pumping much into you, but you're going to be hitting yourself, which is going to be pumping a lot, especially if you're high strength, low resilience, like Ken's Longhorn unit. That's going to hurt like hell when he hits him back because he's wounding you on 3s and wounding himself on 2s.
Yep, and then of course the Omen's pumping out some decent damage too.
Yep, with all those random amount of offense and attacks, it's going to be hard.
Yeah. So he's got the 12-man unit as well. And my guess is that's where the Hope Harvester will go, which will make that quite a decent sized unit as well.
Yeah, it'll make it effectively like 20 Lemures, which means he can go 5 wide, 4 deep, which makes it actually a fairly decent brick. And he's got the things like the Brazen Beasts and Myrmidons and all these other things that can just come around and fight you. And I wouldn't be surprised if those Myrmidons would go a dart of 3 wide, 4 deep, with the piercing spike and have about 10-ish attacks at strength 5, hitting you at AP 2, which will be no joke.
Yeah, no, they're a really good unit for their points. Although, you know, paying extra points for the standard and the piercing spike with only 10 bodies, maybe, but yeah, 10 Myrmidons going 3 wide is a seriously good unit for its points. So I think this is a really good list. I think a lot of people are going to find this a hard list to beat as well. I think it will be right up there, but for my mind, maybe not quite as hard to handle as Jeremy's list.
Yeah, it does have good potential though. Like, it's got quite a bit of mirrored scales going on within the Hoarders and the Lemures, which are both normally hard to shift bricks, but then you're doing all that damage to yourself, which is never good. And the Maw will still be hard to deal with because it's got a lot of wounds with Witchcraft and Kaleidoscopic Flash. So it's got a lot of opportunities to make it so you can't like shoot them off with the cannon, for example.
Yeah, that Maw's always a pain to deal with. Smart people bring big units of zombies to feed to it.
Yeah. So that's what Russell could do with the 2 units of zombies, just feed it until it blows up, and that would be a nice 1,085 points.
Yeah, I think this is a really good list, and I'm pretty confident Andy's going to go well. He'll be up there. Whether he'll be top 3, I'm sure he'll be there or thereabouts.
Yeah, I agree. Should be a solid top 4 or 5.
All right, moving on to our next one. All right, next we have Ryan Sinister's Dread Elves. So he's got a Warlock Outcast with Cosmology, Binding Scroll, and the Scales. He's got a Legion Legate on a Manticore, Temple Legate, BSB, a big unit of Spearmen, 6 Shadow Riders, a unit of Auxiliaries, huge unit of 29 Judicators, 2 units of Knights, 2 units of Black Cloaks, and 2 Repeater Batteries. Ryan is a top player and I think highly fancied to win this tournament. He's got quite a balanced list there with quite a lot of shooting, the 2 Repeater Batteries, the 2 Black Cloak units, the crossbows from core, and the Shadow Riders from core, along with Divination and Cosmology, mean he's pumping out an awful lot of shooting damage, enough to cause most of the armies some concerns. But then those 2 big blocks of infantry, the Legionnaires and the Judicators, there's almost nothing that wants to fight those, really.
No, definitely not head on. And a lot of people, if they do go head on, will get stuck on them for at least a turn. And he's got the 2 units, the 6 Dread Knights with Lancers that will just go onto the sides and just rip through so many things so quickly. And it's also got a big Manticore with Death Cheetah and a Lance, which will do the same thing very easily and just ruin fights.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really hard list for most people to deal with. Russell won't be able to fight it even head on. He'll probably have trouble with the Judicators and the Legionnaires. Both of those fight pretty well, and with the +1 to wound, They'll cause a lot of problems. Jeremy's list, he's got the shooting there that can threaten his big monsters and do a fair bit of damage pretty quickly with the Cosmology, Unity, and Divergence spell. He could cause half those scraplings to disappear. And that's a hard spell to stop with the Warlock Outcast. You effectively got a -3 on your dispel roll, which is really difficult if he throws 4 dice at Unity. It's really hard to dispel. You end up throwing all your dice and you still might fail.
Yeah, but it's also could hurt very easily back because he is always only tough 3 and against Pyro is never a good matchup.
Yep, indeed. He'll be wanting to get rid of that Pyro Mage as quickly as he can. Of course, the problem being that it might be sitting with 10 Tribesmen and a couple of Khans, so it's not going to be easy for Ryan to get rid of that Mage, that's for sure.
No, it won't be.
So yeah, it will be a very interesting matchup, and I think one that will go a long, long way to determining who's going to take out Manawatu Grand this year.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I think they'll be both top 3 material and are almost certain to play. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that one goes. So I think good balanced list, and it will definitely be in the top 3 in my opinion.
Yeah, I do agree.
All right, our next list is Brian's Dread Elves. Brian and Ryan both playing Dread Elves. He's got a Temple Legate with Divination, same as Ryan. Equipped a little bit differently though. He's also got the Warlock Outcast, but with Evocation. He's got a Beastmaster with the Mirror. He's got Legion Legate as well for his BSB. Unit of Militants, unit of Spearmen, unit of Crossbows, unit of Obsidian Guard, double Thunderpack, double Repeater Battery, and a Colossal Kraken. I think Brian had a good think about his list from the last tournament, and he's made some quite good changes, I think. I like the repeater batteries. I think they will cause a lot of people problems. I really like the Thunder Packs. They're pretty cheap for their points, but certainly cause a lot of damage. The Obsidian Guard, I think 22 of those is a really good number. Slightly lower strength than the Judicators, but with the +1 to wound and the 2 attacks, I think they are a really, really good choice. I think Brian's probably going to get good value out of that unit, potentially as good value as Ryan's getting with the Judicators.
Yeah, and he can quite easily buff them up as well with Evocation, give them reroll to hit and reroll to wound, and then Divination giving another reroll to hit. But if he wants to with Scrying, he can also make them a bit easier to defend.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be going for the reroll to hit too much, as they'll probably hit most things on 2s anyway with their lightning reflexes. But it does give him that tool if he plays into an army like yours with lots of parry.
Yeah, he can also use those reroll to hits for his other units, like the Thunder Packs and the Kraken, that don't benefit from the lethal strike, and they might not hit so easily.
You mean the lightning reflexes?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's got a lot to like about it, this list, I think. I like the Temple Militants. They pump out a lot of damage, with Dark Elves having that +1 to wound, makes them very, very effective. A lot of good buffs. Their Temple Legate gives the unit that he's in distracting, so he gets that for free, and like you say, you could take Scrying and put it on another unit as well. I think Brian's got a good list here. He should be, I think, pretty competitive in this. I suspect, though, he'll be struggling to match his top 3 placing that he got in the last tournament.
Yep, well, it's a good list, and he's can play well, so it is still a chance, and he do like the fact that he's managed to fit 4 good characters in.
Yeah, I suspect Jeremy will be a very difficult proposition for him. That Pyromancy is going to do a lot of damage to those smaller units, and it's going to be hard work chewing through the big units. Be very interesting if he plays into Ryan. I suspect that in that matchup, Ryan's Cosmology is going to be an advantage over Brian's Evocation. But I think this list should play pretty well into Russell's
Oh,
vampire list.
yeah, I would agree on that with the 3 blocks being able to fight fairly well into them, be able to grind him down as much as he's going to be grinding. They're going to be a big grind, and with all the other characters and the evocation and the divination, he should be able to grind them down quickly.
Yeah, and of course, being able to take lethal strike from evocation will really help him to be able to grind against the ghasts, um, where they've really only got that strong defense going for them. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes, but I think he's learned a lot from his last list, and it'll be interesting to see whether it performs as well for him. Alright, our next list is your Beast Herd list, Jacob. So Jacob's running with a similar theme to what he's done quite often in the past with his Minotaur Warlord, although he's taking advantage of being able to wear Destiny's Call now and changed up his kit a bit with Destiny's Call and Blessed Inscriptions. He's got a Soothsayer with Shamanism, with Trickster's Cunning and Ancestral Carvings, as well as the Seed of the Dark Forest. In practice games, I can tell you this guy is a pain to fight. With Shamanism giving you not being able to be wounded on better than a 5+, and then having to re-roll to wound as well, makes him quite tanky. He's also got a Minotaur Chieftain BSB, and with the Argor's Affliction, he's Rare 6 with a 4-up Fortitude save. And even though he's only got 4 attacks with a great weapon and battle focus, I could tell you that those generally hurt a lot. He's got his standard big unit of Spearmen with the Banner of the Wild Herd. He's got 29 Wild Horns with the Nailed Hide Totem in the Legion standard. So with parry, the extra combat rares, and the ability for distracting, again, quite a tanky unit. He's got the Feral Hounds and Core, 6 Minotaurs with the Banner of Speed and the Blackwing Totem, so quite a fast unit. Double Razor Tusks to again increase movement speed. 2 units of Centaurs with Lancers and 2 Gargoyle units. So all in all, most of it moves pretty fast and hits pretty hard with lots of totems and shamanism, quite a handful.
Yeah, well, how I play this unit, this army, is it's got these 3 blocks that I can just kind of use to push forward, not too aggressively, because they don't tend to enjoy being charged awfully much. Spears don't mind it, because, well, spears and then all the attacks that I can pump back into it. But I enjoy playing this army, and hopefully it'll go well for me.
Yeah, I think this is quite a good army. That big block of spears is one of the few units that probably can go into things like that tribesman unit that Jeremy's got. You've got the bodies to soak up the damage, and the Minotaur Warlord kills quite a few guys in return. Similar with the 6 Minotaurs with the BSB, again, there's not a lot that can fight that head on. And with all the extra things you've got in your toolbox for helping you move faster, you should get the charge more often than not. So all up, my experience with playing against this list is it's quite difficult to handle.
Yeah, well, that's what Dad says, but I guess I've just got to go off by what Dad says, and it's helpful because I've got, other than the 3 big blocks of my characters, everything can be used as chaff. I've got 2 Sheep Centaur units that can be used as chaff, 2 Gargoyle units that can be used as chaff, 2 Razor Tusk Chariots that can be used as chaff, and a unit of dogs that can be used as chaff.
Yeah, lots of little units to deal with and enough big threats as well. It's a good list. Well, I've enjoyed playing against it, found it very challenging, and I'll be really interested to see how you go. But yeah, it's a pretty competitive field, so I think you're going to have to play well to make top 3, but this list is certainly good enough, I think, to do it.
Yep, well, I hope so.
Alright, our next list is yours truly's Vampire Covenant. Sticking with vampires, but going back to a theme that suits my playstyle a lot more after playing with big infantry lists, with double altars and big flying gribblies. Move back to something that's a lot more mobile and fast moving, much more in touch with my fast MSU kind of style that I like to play from growing up playing Sylvan Elves. So in my list, I've got Independent Bloodline. I've got the Arcane Knowledge Master with Occultism that I love so much. I've also gone with another Master with Evocation. He's also got the Blessed Inscriptions Lance and Duskforge. So he's got the 1-up rerollable and on the charge Strength 7 Divine. I got 50 Skeleton Spearmen with the Banner of Relentless Company, a unit of zombies, 2 units of dogs, 9 Barrow Knights with a Flaming Standard, 5 Spectral Hunters, double Vampire Knights, and a Varkalak. So the theme of this list is really fast and mobile and pretty hard hitting. We got 4 units of cavalry as well as the Varkalak and the dogs that all move fast. The 50 spears with the Relentless Company banner can triple march that 15 inches at the beginning, and then the 2 heavy hitting characters that provide really strong magic support. So hopefully it's going to tick enough boxes to give me a chance of repeating last year's tournament, but don't think it's going to be quite as strong as the Broken Rat list that I took last year.
Yeah, well, I have found it annoying with 4 units of knights that all move fast and all hit hard. It's very annoying with 2 vampire knights running around, having to zone them and put a lot of cost and points into fighting those off, but then also have to worrying about a Varkalak doing the Vanguard forward and then flying all the way up the side, which is also annoying.
Yep, plan is move fast and put them under a lot of pressure straight away, and then hopefully open up some mistakes while they're trying to deal with so many threats at once.
Yeah, well, you do have the opportunity to just chaff them up straight away and then try and end it quickly with the 2 units of direwolves and the spectral hunters that can be used to chaff.
Yeah, don't give away too many secrets. Alright, we'll move on to the next one. Alright, next up we've got Curtis with his Highborn Elves. Been a long time since we've seen Curtis at a tournament. He didn't take up my offer to help him with a list, and I'm quite keen to see how he goes with this, because I think overall it's not a bad list he's come up with. He's got a mage on a young dragon, master of pyromancy, with the Asphad Scholar for the extra range. He's got a general on a lion chariot and a BSB on a lion chariot, triple highborn lances, 2 units of reavers, 2 lion chariots, 20 Queen's Guard, and 2 fire phoenixes. What do you think, Jacob?
Well, it's going to be annoying with 4 total lion chariots and 2 phoenixes just running around with all these single models, and then also the 3 units of 6 highborn lancers. Yes, they are cheap and a bit puny, but 6 strength 6 attacks is never funny. And with all the units running around, it's going to be hard to avoid being charged in the flank.
Yep, and he's got the dragon as well for another single model threat, and he's got Hero's Heart on the rider, so it's, what is it, must be 7 or 8 strength 5 attacks all up that's putting out. Well, the dragon might even be strength 6. It's deceptively shooty as well, with the 20 Queen's Guard and the 2 units of Reavers, the Pyromancy, all shooting at you, as well as the sweeping attacks from the 2 Fire Phoenixes, so it can actually do a huge amount of range damage while zoning you with, like you said, the 4 chariots.
Yeah, and he's got the ability to chaff and end it quickly, like you do as well, with the 5 units of fast-moving cavalry units.
Yeah, the big issue with this army is obviously going to be that it just cannot grind at all. So there's quite a few lists that have got big blocks. You think about your unit with your spearmen. I've got the equally big block of skeleton spearmen. Jeremy's got the tribesmen, the double units of scraplings. Both Dark Elf players have got decent sized infantry blocks like the Judicators and the Obsidian Guard. There's really nothing in this list that can go into those blocks. So while he's got a lot of units, the lion chariots are not that maneuverable. They are, what, movement 8?
Yeah, movement 8, I think.
So, while they can zone really well, they're not great at getting down flanks and creating opportunities for flank charges and things like that.
Yeah, the list is going to be very hit and kill.
Yeah, so I think it will be interesting to see how he goes. I think looking at Russell's list, Pyromancy is going to be helpful for him, and he's certainly got enough tools there to cause Russell quite a few problems. But I think most of the other lists so far are probably going to be quite difficult for him. They either do similar things to his, but have the tools to answer this. It'll be very interesting to see if those Queensguard and his Pyromancy can do enough range damage against the Dark Elves to see whether he can win that shooting match. Yeah, well, it'll be very interesting. He'll have to get rid of those bolt throwers quite quickly, or else they're going to cause him a lot of trouble with what do they got? 2 lots, so 16 strength 5 shots each turn.
Yeah.
He won't want to soak that up for long.
No, well, especially not having the ability to heal in any shape or form. So I think the list will do well if it's played well.
Yeah. On the upside, he's invested a lot of points in that mage flying around with no special save, but we are yet to see any cannons so far. And little spoiler, there are no cannons.
Yeah, which will be good for a couple of people where they all have these single models like this one.
It will indeed. I think it's helpful, the meta for this little tournament that we've got. This list might go quite well, but I think Curtis is probably in for a tough tournament. All right, and that brings us to our last list. This is Daniel's Demon Legions. So Daniel's bringing a courtesan general with a master of witchcraft and the iron husk. So he's a big nasty res 6. And then he's also got a scourge. No iron husk on this one though, but he is an adept. 2 units of 10 succubi with smothering coils. 2 units of 10 imps. One with the sorceress antennae, and another one with Mark of Eternal Champion. 6 clawed fiends with piercing spike. 2 blazing glories. 5 furies, and another 5 furies. So initial thoughts, those blazing glories give me nightmares still after Daniel giving me a jolly good hiding the last time we played. And then he's got 2 big greater demons rushing around, which are certainly going to cause some problems. What are your thoughts, Jacob?
Well, I think it's generalizingly a good list, a bit more like MSU, like Curtis's list with the 2 big single model things, and then 2 units of succubi, and then 2 units of blazing glories, and then 2 small units of imps, and then a decent sized clawed fiend unit, but isn't that grindy, but it is still AP3 with all the attacks.
Yeah, that Claude Fiends unit is scary if it gets into the right matchups. But I like this list in that it's got a lot of tools that can deal with different things. It's the kind of list, though, that I think is going to highly depend on the user to see how effective it's going to be. A lot of tools that really need to get their preferred targets, like the Claude Fiends, that really need to go into large targets so they get their reroll to wound.
I believe it's +1 to hit, +1 to wound without the other thing. I believe it is on 100 jaw.
Yeah, so that makes them far more scary. Similar with the Blazing Glories, as I found out when I played them last time, can do a great job on holding a block up if it's got characters in it. Can assassinate off very powerful characters, but otherwise, into a regular unit, they're not actually going to do very much at all. The succubi are a little bit the same. 10 succubi are nothing unless they get into their preferred target where they can hit first and hit hard. Maybe some of those elven units, the succubi going first, could kill a lot of Obsidian Guard, for example, before they can swing.
Yeah, I would agree. And also, I see one of those furry units as red haze, and off by memory, that means that they're strength 6 in the charge, because I believe they have devastating charge +1 strength, and I believe red haze gives them another devastating charge +1 strength, but it means that they hit themselves.
Okay, well, that makes them fairly scary. And then, of course, there's the 2 greater demons as well, which are fast and mobile and can fight pretty well. So I think it is an interesting list. I think it will be really interesting how it goes, given that there are a lot of units with big blocks of infantry. Um, there's some good targets for him, but at the same time, those 10 succubi, for example, can't go into your big unit of spearmen.
No, my spearmen will slowly grind them down. Well, not really that slowly because there's only 10 of them. But it's still going to be scary with those two big greater demons, both res 6 and hitting hard.
Yeah, they will be scary, but a lot of units can just challenge them out. So without too many easy means of getting rid of those unit champions, Daniel's going to have to play quite carefully to maximize the potential of this list.
Yes, I would agree, but if it is played well, I would see how it would be a very scary list.
Yep, I think it's definitely got potential. If Daniel plays well, this will be a tough list for a lot of people to handle. Witchcraft's a lore that we don't see that often on our scene, so it will be interesting whether he catches a few people out with the tricks of witchcraft, because there's a lot of interesting things you can do with that magic lore. It's always one that I want to play with, but my armies don't have a lot of access to it, and then there's always seems to be something else I want more, but it's always appeals as a really good toolkit that can do a lot of good things for you in a game.
Yeah, I do like that courtesan. I've played it a very similar build with the Master of Witchcraft and really enjoyed it. Worked quite well and pulled a couple sneaky tricks with their special witchcraft spells.
Yep, I think it's got a lot to recommend. So there you have it. That's our 10 lists for Manawatu Grand. All that's left is to make our predictions. So top 3 for me. I think it's very hard to go past Jeremy's list. Head to head, I think he nudges Ryan. So I'm going to go with Jeremy for first place, Ryan for second place, and Andy for third place. What do you reckon, Jacob?
I agree that it's probably going to be a fight for top of the table between Jeremy and Ryan, but just because of Ryan's sheer experience and tends to be a pretty good player, I'm going to put him at first, Jeremy at second, and then Andy at third as well.
All right, so there you have it. We'll see how those predictions play out in just over a week. We'll see how we go. Maybe I'll be inspired enough to do some battle reports. They are 3-hour rounds, so taking some photos shouldn't interfere too much in getting my games finished in time. So I'll take the photos and then we'll see how we go. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you on the next one.